Hello everybody, this is Leon Hilbert, aka Professor, and welcome to the next modding tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll discuss how to properly export your model from Blender at the correct size with the correct settings, and how to import it into Unreal Editor. Now, I see a lot of people forget to do this. This is extremely important. Before you start exporting, this right here is your armature or your skeleton. This is your armature. Again, I'm not sure why it's listed twice, but it is. And then this is your mesh. Now, your armature is likely going to be named the name of the character that you exported. You're actually going to want your mesh to be named that. And it's going to put a .001. We're going to delete that in a sec. First, we need to name the armature to armature with a capital A and make sure not to misspell it. And then in the second spot here, we also need to name this armature. If you neglect to do this, the game will basically get really confused about the name of the model. It'll actually think that this name here, skExtend, is the name of the first bone, which it isn't. The name of the first bone is root bone, but it's going to see that and it's going to get confused. Whereas if you name it armature, Unreal Engine is gonna know, oh, that's the start of the armature and the first bone is named bone root. So if you see your model looking like this, it may be because you misnamed the armature. So go back into Blender and check it. Let's delete this .001 so that our character mesh is named skExtend10 character 10001. That's for Miku's model. It'll be different depending on what model you're replacing. So you're going to export this model as a .fbx. So you'll go to File, click Export, and click FBX. And so now the settings here are going to be important. I'm only going to go over the settings that you will need to change. All of the rest of these should be default. But if you would like to make sure, I have a screenshot in the tutorial doc so that you can make sure each and every one of your settings is correct. Okay, so this is very important because the models are so gigantic. You're going to want to export to your model with a scale of 0.01. Now here under Geometry, go ahead and click Tangent Space. Now this will only work if your model has only tris and quads. I'll show you real quick what that refers to. If you go into edit mode, you can see that all of these are triangles. They have 1, 2, 3 vertices, and that's what makes a triangle. I know, we're not in kindergarten, we already know this. Then a quad, or quadrilateral, will have 4. I believe this model only has tris. Most models ideally will, but if you made your own custom model, then you may get an error message when you try to export with tangent space, in which case, if you need to, you can just click A to select all of your mesh. You'll go to Face and select Triangulate Faces. And that didn't do anything for me because all of my faces already are triangles. But if you get that error message, then that's what you can do to make sure that you can use the tangent space setting. And very importantly, under Armature, click the drop down and unselect Add Leaf Bones. That will add extra bones at the ends of your skeleton, and you don't want that. Just in case you were testing any animations, click Not to Export Animations, just deselect that. Go ahead and name this whatever you want. It doesn't matter what it's named. And click Export, and it should be ready. And now we're ready to open Unreal Engine. But let me show you how to get the correct version of Unreal Engine. Hello, this is Editor Lee here, and I have some updates that are going to change a lot of the stuff in this video. I have been running through a lot of troubleshooting and making sure that I'm using the best method possible, and I have learned a lot of things thanks to some awesome people on Discord. Right now, in particular, I would like to really thank Jet the Hawk, aka Good Boys, as well as Emma IDK something, from the CrossWorlds Hub Discord server. They were able to help me figure out a few things regarding the best method for using Unreal Engine to cook the files. I originally started using the Unreal Engine from the Epic Games Store, which is not the recommended way, but whenever I use the recommended way, which, as we'll discuss, is to download the Ryan's custom engine from GitHub, I kept having cooking errors. In fact, yesterday I tried 13 times over the course of a couple hours to cook a very simple mod, and every single time it's failed. Instead of using the custom engine, I just used the Epic Games Store Unreal Engine, which worked just fine to cook a character mod. But the thing is, I and some others ran into this particular error whenever we modded a custom character into the game. Whenever you would go into the garage or the customized machine screen, the game would crash, and some people even had the game crash while entering matches online and in other places. I wanted to ask those on Discord if there was a solution to this, because I didn't want to give you guys bad information, and I wanted to see if there was a better way of doing this. And it turns out there is. I finally found out what the deal is, so here's a short explanation. First of all, with using the Epic Games Store version of Unreal Engine, what causes your character mod to make the game crash whenever you enter the garage in-game, it's the materials. And it was Good Boys that helped me to figure that out. He suggested that either the mesh or the materials was the issue, and so before packing I just removed the materials, and then I loaded my character into the game, and lo and behold, when you went into the garage, the game did not crash, so it was indeed the materials. But that still didn't solve the issue. And I was basically gonna leave it at that, but thankfully, Emma IDK something came along, and they suggested that not using Ryan's custom engine is what was causing the materials to cause the game to crash. And so that's when I went into trying to make the engine work, and I just couldn't. And I told them my problem, and they said, which I feel pretty dumb for not realizing this before, but you'll need to use, as you can see here, you have the custom engine, but you also need the CrossworldsTemplateProject. And by using both of these together, it will prevent the issues which makes the cooking fail. And by using Ryan's custom engine along with the CrossworldsTemplateProject, you can create a character mod that does not crash in the garage. So I just really want to give a huge shout out to these two awesome people who helped me figure this out. I really appreciate it. I was completely lost, and I'm just very thankful that you guys came to my rescue. And with that, I will now return you to my past self with the rest of the video. Many will tell you to use this custom version of Unreal Engine, which you can download from here. You'll have to follow a couple of these instructions. You will have to have an Epic account, and then you will need to register it with GitHub, and you'll press the button that says these instructions, and that will open up a website, and you will follow the instructions on that page. Not a big deal, and you'll be able to access this instantly. You'll then follow the next link, which will get you here, and this is the custom engine that you're supposed to use for modding Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Now, the next thing that you need is the CrossworldsTemplateProject. You'll follow the link in the Google Doc, and this will give you the template project. Absolutely need this template project for anything to work. Otherwise, you may be able to get your model in game, but it will T-pose, and it will not be fixable, in my experience. So you'll want this template project, and that's what I'm going to be using today. Okay, so let's go over here. Ideally, for each mod that you make, you want to copy this CrossworldsTemplateProject and have a different one for each mod that you make, so that you don't lose progress on a previous mod and don't have to completely redo it if you want to change something. So I made another one for Stagger. We're gonna go into Union, and double click the union.u project. Now you may initially get a prompt here that will ask you to choose the version of Unreal that you want to use. If you get that, make sure that you choose the binary. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when you first get into Unreal Editor. Down here is your content browser. You're going to want to make a folder directory that mimics the exact places that you found your assets in fmodel. Let's go ahead and open fmodel real quick. We're going to see what directory we need to use for Miku. Okay, and she is in pack chunk 2. Under O2 Union Asset Character, and she is in Extend 10. And you'll need to make note of these different file folders. So this is the directory that we're going to copy. And for this tutorial, we're just doing the character, just modding the character in game with no custom animations or anything else. So the only folders we'll need are the mesh, material, and texture folder. So let's copy this directory in Unreal Editor. So our first folder here is content, so we'll start from there. Union is up here, and we'll make a new folder in here, and that's going to be called O2 Union. Now we go in here, we'll make another new folder, and it's going to be called Asset. Make sure you don't accidentally put an S at the end of Asset, because it won't read the folder. And then the next one is character, and then extend 0001. And then we have our material folder, and these will be all in the same folder, mesh, and lastly, texture. So the way you'll do this is you'll go to the folder that has your FBX in it, and super easy, you're just going to drag and drop this into the content browser. Here's where we will input the settings that I have written down here in the doc. Again, I won't go over each and every one, just the ones that are not default and that you'll have to change. But if you want to make sure, just look at this video or look at the screenshot in the tutorial doc. Okay, this was unchecked for some reason. It probably is going to be checked on yours, but make sure that Create Physics Asset is checked, and do not import animations, which there wouldn't be any in that file anyway. And here's a very important part. So the import uniform scale. Whenever I was importing my character, I was having problems with the scale of my character. My character always seemed so much smaller than all of the other characters. I've found that importing your model at 1.2 import uniform scale is the best setting possible for getting your character to be the size that they are supposed to be in game. And make sure that import textures is selected and that you select create new materials. Now, if import textures is not selected but create new materials is, for some reason you can't click this, just go back to do not create materials and make sure that you have that checked, and then create new materials. Okay, so that will make sure that your materials and your textures are all imported into Unreal Editor without any settings that may have possibly been in Blender that could screw with things. And in this tutorial, I am going to experiment a tiny bit and mess with the material properties just a little, and we'll see what works and what doesn't work, and I'll tell you all about it at the end. Okay, so after you've done that, click the blue Import All button. All the assets from that FBX file will start importing. And you're gonna see a bunch of text here. If you see no smoothing group, it always says that. Don't worry about that, that's not a big deal. And now you can see there's a bunch of stuff here. Thankfully, at the bottom of each of these little squares, and if you can't see these squares, there are a couple different ways to view this. You can view it as a list or in columns. I like to view it in tiles. That makes it easier to see what I'm looking at. At the bottom of each of these little tiles, it will tell you what that thing is. First of all, you're going to want to move your physics asset, your skeletal mesh, and your skeleton into the mesh folder. So select those three and drag them over here to the mesh folder. and be sure to click move here, and it will move them. Now, all of these round things, those are the materials. Guess what? You're gonna move all of those into the material folder. Oh, my computer's chugging. I have a lot of programs open. I don't know why it needs to compile shaders when I'm just moving the materials to a different file. My computer chunked hard. I don't even know if that part of the recording came through. I'm gonna close Blender, because that's a good idea. And also close everything else that I can't. I have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but I'm also running Steam Labs, an audio program, and Warudo all at the same time. So that's a bit. That's a bit. Alright, so now we have the textures, and we're gonna select all of those, and you guessed it, we're moving them into the texture folder. Awesome. The most important thing you want to do here, you don't need to rename the textures or the materials. They can literally be named anything. And to check to make sure that your materials and textures are connected to your model, just click on your skeletal mesh here, or double click it rather. And it will open up a window here, and you will be able to see your model with all of its textures applied. You may be noticing there are some black parts on her mesh. That's because she has transparent meshes. We're gonna fix that in a second. And her glasses need to be transparent. We're gonna fix that too. Then real quick, you can check here. The very first bone up here needs to be root. If it is anything other than bone root, you did it wrong. You may have forgotten to rename your armature. So you will need to go back to Blender, and then you can rename your armature and export again. Now, if you need to export your mesh again, you don't need to export everything else. All you have to do is go into your mesh folder, right where this is. You can actually right click on the skeletal mesh, and you can click re-import with new file, and that will allow you to click a new FBX that you have exported from Blender, and you can use that file to re-import this mess, and the textures and everything will already be applied, and you won't have to re-import those. But everything seems to be in order. If you look at this here and it says is used by the current mesh but has no vertices weighted against it, that's fine. We don't have any vertices weighted to these things because we don't have the skirt base and we don't have the left collar and the bust. But as long as you have, your hips, pelvis, arms, legs, fingers, all of that, that's perfectly fine. Oh yeah, I did forget to tell you, I did go ahead and try to weight the face, and I found a tutorial to do that, and I linked that in the tutorial doc, and it was actually very quick and painless. I was very surprised. He had some really good methods on doing the facial weight paints. If you would like to weight the face, make sure to watch his video and give it a try. I definitely would recommend it. So now, before we move on, we're going to need to make sure that we rename these three things here. They need to be named exactly what they are in game. So you'll be able to go into Fmodel and you can check the names of these three things: the skeletal mesh, the physics asset, and the skeleton. For Miku, it's the same as the file name that I typed in earlier. And for the physics asset, it's the exact same name, except it has underscore physics asset after it. And then the skeleton, same story, but it has underscore skeleton after it. Now, if you are replacing a character like Sonic or Shadow, they have two meshes. They have a mesh with a middle mouth and a mesh with a side mouth. I decided I'm actually going to make a separate tutorial going over this entire process in a quicker succession, but just to show you what the differences would be in this whole process if you were doing a side mouth and middle mouth character like Sonic, Shadow, SBO, Rouge, etc, etc. But I do give some details about that in the tutorial doc, but I've been met with some confusion, which is totally understandable because it's really difficult to explain. It would be easier to show you, so I'll be working on that. I'm actually going to be porting Nazo into the game over Shadow. Something that's really important to remember, depending on what character you're replacing, it's going to depend where you put the skeleton. Now, Miku's skeleton goes in her own mesh folder. For the majority of the main cast, their skeleton is kept in a separate folder. I'll show you an F model real quick, and I'll show you how you can easily check where your character's skeleton is located. So if we go back to Pack Trunk 2, I'll look at Miku real quick. So if you go to her mesh here, double click on it, then close the 3D viewer, you're gonna look at this line right here. This is gonna tell you where her skeleton is located. It says that it's located in her mesh folder, and it tells you the name. It's right here. On the other hand, if you were replacing Sonic, we'll click on SK Sonic to start out with. You'll look here, and it says that his skeleton is located in character common skeleton normal skeleton. But Lee, there's a skeleton right here that's SK Sonic side. Remember how we talked about characters having two different meshes? See, this is with Sonic that has his mouth on the side. This is the Sonic that has his mouth in the middle. The middle mouth models, their skeleton is always normal skeleton. Sonic side, he has his own skeleton. SK Sonic side skeleton, it's right here. But where's the normal skeleton? I'll show you. It's in this folder right here under character, common, skeleton. Here it is, large and normal skeleton. The larger characters use the large skeleton. The normal size characters use the normal skeleton. That's because this skeleton contains each and every bone that all of those characters use. Whether it's Shadow's quills, whether it's Sonic's quills, whether it's Amy's hair, whether it's whatever, it has all of it. For now, that's the way that you'll be able to tell whatever character you put. Now let's pick Cream. Go into her mesh folder, and it says, oh, Cream, mesh, SK Cream skeleton. She uses a skeleton in her own mesh folder. So does Charmy. Let's look at Blaze though. She uses the normal skeleton in the common folder. And we'll look at, let's look at Zaz. And, oh, he uses his own skeleton here in his mesh folder. Phil uses the large skeleton. I'm curious. Okay, Zavik does. Zavik uses the large skeleton. And so on and so forth. You'll just have to check whatever character you're replacing. You always go to their mesh folder, look at the mesh that you're replacing, and make sure that you're choosing the correct skeleton. So if you need to have a common skeleton, you'll create a folder here in character, name it common, put a folder in that named skeleton. And then here is where you'll put your skeleton. And you'll either name it normal skeleton, large skeleton. That's extremely important to remember. But Miku uses her own skeleton, so it goes right here in her mesh folder. But for now, let's get back to this. Now we're going to go to the materials, and we're going to mess around with the materials a little bit. So for this, I double-click your skeletal mesh. I would suggest that you have this open. Now I have two monitors, so I can actually put this on my second monitor, and that way as I'm editing the materials, every time I save the material, this model here will update with the new material properties so that I can see what they look like. So for now, we're gonna put this over here. You guys won't be able to see it, but that's what I will be looking at. Okay, and so we're going to now go into materials. First of all, we'll start with something very simple. For instance, Stagger has a jacket. I find that the default roughness on all of the materials looks a little plasticky. On especially fabric, I like to increase the roughness. That will make it look a lot better. The roughness starts by default at 1.5. I'm increasing it to 1. And then I'm gonna click save. And now here is the difference between what you saw before and what you're seeing now. And you can mess around with these other settings up here at the top, right under base color. And you can see over here a preview of what that will look like, and then whenever you click save, it will apply those settings to your model. So the way that we get rid of these black boxes on Stagger's mesh is by adding an alpha. The PNG of Stagger's jacket has transparent faces. That's the black that you're seeing. That's actually transparent. So whenever I add the alpha, I'll just add this texture as the alpha, and all of the transparent parts will actually become transparent on the model. So the way that you'll go about adding this alphabet, or also called a mask, is first of all, you'll go into blend mode here. And if you don't see this, go ahead and click somewhere blank in the middle of the grid, and this should appear. You'll go to blend mode and you'll change it to masked. Now you'll drag the alpha part of the texture, which is here. This is the texture sample node. You'll drag the alpha over to the opacity mask, and you'll see that that actually changed to where the black parts are now transparent. And we can see how this looks on our model now. Now, I want to check this in game real quick to make sure that this actually works with Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, because the last time that I tried to mess with the blend mode, I actually turned the glasses on my model translucent so that they could be like sunglasses, and it caused the game to crash. So I'm gonna test this real quick, and then I'm gonna get back to you. Okay, I am very, very, very happy and very, very relieved to announce that this did work. So we should be able to use this method to get transparent glasses textures and transparent textures everywhere else. So let's get back to editing all of the materials to look the way that we want them to. And then I think this should be real nice and easy. If you have normal maps assigned in Blender already, then they should appear right here and already be connected, so that's very good. Just make sure before exporting from Blender that your normal maps are assigned to the material that they go to. And I'll show you how I'm going to be adding transparency to my glasses. So I already have a texture here that has transparency already. I'll show it to you real quick actually. So this is the glasses lens texture. It's very hard to see, so I'm gonna put a color behind it. Yeah, still very hard to see, but you can see that little ghost of a texture, and that's the texture for the glass lenses. So if you don't have something like this, say that you wanted to make some shades. Here's what I would do. If you wanted to have shades, this program is paint.net. It's my favorite image editing program. I've been using it for like 12, 13 years. It's the best, and it's still receiving updates, and it doesn't do all of this fancy stuff, but it does exactly what it needs to do. So what I would do is, if you wanted to make some black shades, start off with black, and then go here and change the opacity. And if you want some really dark shades, maybe go like that. Now save this. You will need to make this the same size as your texture. When you're making your custom character, you can use this very texture in Blender for your shades. But if you need to make an alpha texture for shades that already exist, take the shades texture, copy the size of that texture, and you can go up here to image and you can resize it to however you need. And then you can use this, you can load this into Blender just like I'm going to be doing for my glass lenses, and as I understand it, that should work the exact same way. It will make the glasses this level of transparency. So let's see if I can remember how to do this a second time. We go to blend mode, click masked, and then we pull the alpha from the texture to the opacity mask. And let's see, if you needed to add, that's very, very transparent. You can barely see it. It is there, it does have a shadow. It is there apparently. Now, if you need to add a second texture here, like I said to do, if you have your glasses texture, but then you need to add a second texture, you'll need to put the texture in the content browser, just like we did with the model earlier. Right click here in the graph and type in texture sample, and that'll give you another node. Then you can just select the texture that you want to use in here, and you connect this alpha to the opacity mask. But let's save this and see what it looks like on the model. And yep, it looks like that worked. Perfect. I'm next going to go to that glass frame. And not only do I need to add an alpha to this, but I also want to make them metallic. Alright, I've set up the mask. And now to make them metallic, you'll just edit the metallic node here. You have to go pretty far up with the metallic quality, if I remember correctly. You may have to go like 50 to get something that's pretty nice and shiny, even up to 100. We're gonna try out 50 and see how it looks on the preview here. Yeah, that's kind of shiny. You can also then, I'll show you what happens if you take the roughness down to just 0.3. It becomes really shiny. Yeah, and if you go any lower than that, it gets really shiny. So between lowering the roughness and increasing the metallic, you can edit a texture to look like metal. And that's fine. I think I'd like it to be shinier though, so I'm going to lower the roughness again. That's pretty nice and shiny. I may up this. That's looking good. Let's see what this looks like. Oh yeah, that's pretty metallic. I think I like that. I can always come back and change it more. Alright, cool. Let me edit the rest of the textures. Yeah, that looks really good. I decided to brighten up Stagger's eyes just a little bit. I gave eye lights an emissive color so that way they appear whiter than everything else. And they always appear white even when they're in shadow. Okay, that looks very good. I decided to remove the highlights on Stagger's hair because I thought they were a little much. And by making the full hair shinier, it gives it its own natural highlights. And whenever you increase the roughness of things, it increases the opacity, so that looks really good. I still can't understand why. See, her hands look normal, but her face looks so pale. I think I am gonna have to edit that real quick. Hold on. Let me just view the... See, the texture doesn't let... The texture looks very worn. So I don't understand why when it's put on the material looks yellow. It does not look good. I'm just gonna go and edit it and... I think that might be it. It's so hard for me to actually remember and tell the difference. But we'll see how it looks in game. Canonically, her antlers should actually be a little bit emissive. So I'm going to add some emission to her antlers. I don't know, that looks kind of cool, not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it. I like it. So I think everything is the way that I want it, but I think that she's ready to test in game. So now that our character is imported, their materials are all edited, their textures are here, everything is renamed. Now we are ready to cook the project. What is cooking? So cooking is something that you do in Unreal Engine that, well, I don't know what it does. It does something though. It does something to the assets. You can't just go into your projects folder and just grab the assets out of there. It's not going to work. You have to go up here and you have to cook them. So here's how you do that properly. You'll go up to platforms. You'll choose Windows. You'll make sure that shipping is selected and you will click cook content. Do not click package content. We're going to package it in a minute. But if you click this, you're not going to get all of the files that you need. You need to click cook content. And now this is the part that may take a while. Your first time cooking is going to take a long time. But every subsequent time cooking after that, when you've already got most of the files already cooked and you just tweaked a few of them, it's gonna cook really quickly. We'll cook it right now and we'll see how long it takes. It is having to do a little bit more right now than the couple times that I cooked just a minute ago, because I've updated all the materials, so it's running through that. It's very close to done now though. Yeah, it is making my computer go a little bit slower. I upgraded my PC recently to some of the best hardware that I could find. So it is definitely better. Whenever you're cooking, make sure you close everything, just so that you don't put a strain on your computer. I have to keep my stuff open because I need to keep recording, and it takes a long time to open everything up for my recording. So I don't want to have to close it down just to open it back up again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And success. It didn't. Now that we're done cooking, also this warning here, that's because I had the window where the cooking was happening open. Otherwise I wouldn't have gotten that warning. So first of all, you're going to want to go to the tutorial doc or down in the description and download Retoc Workflow by Beats. After you download it, extract it, put it in your modding tools, it's going to look something like this. Next, you're going to want to open your project location. I keep my projects in my modding tools as well, CrossworldsTemplateProject Stagger, and that's where you would normally open it. We're instead going to go here to saved and to cooked. This is where your cooked project is located now. Go to Windows, and here, Union, that's what we need to copy. So we're going to press copy, and over in Retoc Workflow, we're going to go into Game Mod, and we're going to paste this here. Now there are some very important things that you need to do about this before packing it. Usually when you open Union, you're going to see a folder called metadata and a .bin file asset registry. You're going to delete both of those. Those will cause the game to crash. Now go to Content, out to Union, Asset, Character, and you're going to go into your Mesh folder. This is very important also. You absolutely positively are going to delete your physics assets. Those will cause the game to crash straight after it says Sega. The game does not like your custom physics assets. It does not want them. You can also delete the skeleton. But Leon, how is my character going to build then? The reason that we put the skeleton and the physics asset into Unreal Engine in the first place is because we needed to have our mesh linked to those two things. What this is going to do is, after you delete these, when the game loads in, it's going to load in your mod pack, and your mod pack's going to go, I wonder where my physics asset is and my skeleton. And it's going to look at the game files. So it's going to use the physics asset and skeleton that are already in the game's files. You just need to put them in Unreal Engine to trick your mesh into thinking that it's already using the game files, but you need to delete them before packing your mod. The only thing you want to leave in this folder are your meshes. Now there are a couple instances when you will leave your skeleton assets in here. That's if you, in certain instances, including if you made a custom skeleton with custom proportions. Widths. Right now I'm not going to do a tutorial on that because I don't currently know how to do that, but in the future I may do so. There is a tutorial for that linked in my tutorial doc. I did not write it, somebody else did. I'm just linking to it. In case you would like to import a character model that has wildly different proportions and you absolutely would need to have a custom-made skeleton for it, and you can't use any of the in-game skeletons. But for now, we don't have that problem, so The only thing we're leaving in the mesh folder is the character mesh. And of course our materials are here, our textures are here. Everything is right where it's supposed to be. Go back up through these folders and go back to Retoc Workflow. And now you're ready to pack the mod. And all you have to do is double click !repackmod.bat. Double click it, this window will come up, and just as quickly as that, it'll be done. Press any key to continue, and now where is it? It's in Game Repack. Here it is. And now you need all three of these files, the .pack, the .ucas, and the .utoc. Now you can name each of these as long as they're named the same thing as each other. You can name them whatever you want to name them, just make sure that _p is after it. As I understand it, the _p means priority. That means that whenever you boot up the game, your system will run it first ahead of the game's actual files. That means that if you're replacing Miku, instead of loading Miku, it's going to load your character. So now this is the exciting part, when we actually get our character into the game. So to do that, we're going to go to Steam, right click, and go to Manage and Browse Local Files. And I'll show you where the mod folder is. It's in Union, Content, Packs, and here's the mod folder. It should already be here. If it isn't, just make a mod folder that is called exactly this, the Tlide MODS, exactly like that. And here's where we'll put our stagger mod. I'll move this over here. I'll go ahead and rename this just to show you what you can do. Yeah, like I said, you can name it anything at all. They just need to all be named the same thing. These files cannot be named the same thing as any of your other mod files. Otherwise, they're going to conflict with each other. And they need to have the _p at the end. Now, our mod is in the game files and it should work. So, now we're going to boot up the game. And I've got some nice little mods here that change the game music to Sonic Riders music. And there she is! And everything is working just as intended. It's so exciting to see your character in-game and to see it working. It looks really good. I like how her highlights turned out and the skin on her face looks good. She is meant to be pale. I know she's pale. That's part of her character. I'm actually gonna do a little race real quick. How about that? So we can see a little bit more of what she looks like. Now, of course she's gonna need her own car. Okay, I think that's good. I'm really glad I did the facial animations. That looks really good. Alright, let's go. So far, all of her animations have been very good. It does seem pretty shiny. Oh, I love how her antlers glow in the dark. Nope, nope, nope. No, how could you do this? Go back to Sonic Adventure 2, you stupid ghost. Although I'm sure too fast for all of you. Let's go. Oh, it looks really, really good. There are some problems with where the knees are bending. May need to just troubleshoot that. Stuff like that will happen. Man, I love how the antlers mock. That was such a good choice. I was very, very pleased with how this came out. Yeah, you can see that me is a little bit messed up. I think that is actually coming from not properly lining up the knees. So what I would suggest to actually make sure that whenever you resizing the model before you start renaming the vertex groups, to go ahead and make sure that you line up the knees and the elbows with exactly where they are. And you can know where the knees and elbows are. If they're not very defined on your model, you can see where they are by looking at the weight paints and seeing where those weight paints meet with each other. Look at that and try to line that up with the knees and elbows of the character that you are replacing, and that way you're much more likely to have a good outcome when it comes to the animations. But you know, in the car, she looks great. Man, Lizzie can't see that. But all in all, I'm very happy with it, and that can be, if you do end up running into this issue, that can actually be fixed pretty easily by just adjusting the weights. Like, it looks like her calf is too long, so just lower the weight paints down the calf a little bit. And you can also just bend the knee and edit the weight paints while the knees are bent. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope that it was helpful and informative for you. If you have any questions, please ask it in the comments, or go to the CrossWorlds Hub Discord and you can send me a message and I will try to answer it as soon as I possibly can. In the next couple of videos, we will be going over how to replace the voice lines, how to edit the animations, and how to edit the subtitles. Oh, and how to add UI so that whenever you choose your character, you'll see your character there, and you'll also see their name. Rather than Hatsune Miku, you'll see Stagger instead. All of those things are very easy to do. Even replacing the voice lines is actually very easy to do if you do it correctly. It just takes the longest because you have a lot of voice lines to replace. Thankfully, Miko does not have that many voice lines, so it's not gonna take too long. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to that, to seeing more of Stagger in this game. I'm really happy with how she came out. And with that, I hope that you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Happy modding, and I'll see you in the next video. You're dismissed.
Been a while since we went head to head. Don't hold anything back.
Cat.